Welcome back, Braves fans. We're back. Episode 1 of the year of Braves Bullpen. Hello, everybody. I'm Ryan Siegel, joined alongside with Gardie Her. And Gardie, we're back. We're back in May because April baseball, let's be honest, kind of a snoozer. It's cold, it's rainy, more games get rained out than actually played. But we digress. We don't need to get into the rigmarole of April baseball. But now that the calendar has flipped to May, we are going to get into May baseball. It is that time of year. The Braves are 20 and 12, currently in second place in the National League East, one game back of the Philadelphia Phillies in the loss column. We will get into that. It is the first time, actually, the Braves have not led the division since April 2nd of last season. April 2nd. So that's essentially 1-0 versus 0-1. 1-1, 2-0. We're talking one series at this point, boys and girls. But Gardie, we talked about this pre-show. I'll let you dive into it further, but the Braves are still good. We got rose-colored glasses last year with the unbelievable record-setting regular season. The Braves are still good.
Yeah, the Braves they're still a very good ball club. I mean, record alone, they're the sixth best team in baseball still at 20 and 12. And I think you said it best pre-show. You can't win a World Series in May, but you definitely can lose one. And that's what we're showing. Yes, is it sad and bad that Spencer Strider is going to be out for the year when he's our ace? 100%. But guys like Chris Sale, guys like Charlie Morton are still doing what we expect them to do. Does that put a bigger strain on our bullpen? 100%. Does it mean this is going to be the fourth year of us sitting here when we talk about Braves baseball and talk about how their bullpen scares the living daylights out of me? Yes, but overall, even there, you're still it's one or two guys. It's Matzik before he went back on the IL, not being who Mad Dog Matzik was pre-Tommy John. Losing Pierce Johnson hurts as well, and having a guy like Bryce Elder not go deep in a couple of his starts, especially against the Dodgers last series, not great. But we're still 20 and 12. You got people coming. You're going to have people coming back. And I mean, there's a reason the trade deadline is at the end of July, not the beginning of June.
You're absolutely right. And as you mentioned, a key piece coming back this year, unfortunately, not Spencer Strider, will be out for the season with a UCL tear. But Sean Murphy suffered a grade 1 oblique strain on March 29th. He is now hitting off a T again. And again, we talk about depth in the lineup. Murphy provides that depth. It was an all-star catcher last year. And you look at the guys that are now who normally hit in front of him. You have obviously Ronald Acuna Jr., who hit 40 and 70 last year, as well in the 300s, was the National League MVP, hitting 268. He's still, again, a little bit slower out of the gate, but still overall not bad. Matt Olson's the guy really suffering with Murphy out. Murphy used to hit fifth to Matt Olson's fourth. And just not having that extra protection in the lineup if you're Matt Olson, where you have to either pitch around him or if you miss, he's going to hit the ball 500 miles away. That being said, also, a 50 home run season is tough to replicate in any league, National League or American League. Again, it's too early to sound the alarm bell, but again, playing well, not outstanding like they did last year, but still overall playing well. They've dropped the last two series, but before that, 2 of 3 against the Guardians, sweeping the Marlins twice, taking 2 of 3 against the defending world champions, sweeping the Houston Astros, splitting with the White Sox because game 3 got rained out, sweeping the Diamondbacks. So they, in the season already, have swept the National League champion and the American League champion. And as Gardie mentioned, still the 6th best team in baseball. Gardie, I guess we're talking about it. Obviously, Murphy will come back. That will help the lineup out. But who do you think really needs to figure it out outside of the bullpen?
I think it's Max Fried. I think, he's a guy that we gave money to be a number 2 behind Spencer Strider. And he has I think a 4.23 ERA. Don't quote me on that, but I think I'm pretty accurate there. And that's not for a number 2 and a guy who then has to be a stretch 1 to kind of parody a basketball term. Having a 4.23 ERA in May is not a good place to be. Yeah, like if he had a 3.7, which is a little high, I'd say, okay, that's fine. It's May. He's what, the ball feels different in April than it does in May. It's going to feel different in June than it did in May. But he also didn't look great at the end of last season either. And he's this question mark in the sense of you're supposed to be Max Fried, maybe an all-star pitcher, and you're looking more like a guy who's going to be a 4-5, not a 2 or a 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, looking at that starting rotation right now without Strider, Fried, you hit the nail on the head, a 4.23 ERA. Chris Sale done well since he's moved to Atlanta, 4-1 with a 3.44. Charlie Morton can somehow stand the test of time. I don't understand it. 40 years old, he's 2-0 with a 3.5. Ronaldo Lopez is 2-1. The 1.5, and as you mentioned, Bryce Elder getting shelled earlier with a 5.28. But Gardie, I think we talked about this pre-show as well. Not a young starting rotation.
No, it's not. I mean, so yeah, you said old man Morton's 40, Chris Sale's 35, and the thing with pitchers too, especially a guy like Chris Sale, okay, his 3.44 average this season, it's better than what he did last year, but he's not the Cy Young candidate that he was with Chicago and then briefly with Boston from 2012 to 2018. That was 6 years ago. He didn't pitch in 2020 due to injury. So like you're not banking on him. And I think that a thing that worries me looking at the construction of our roster is that there are so much of it from a pitching perspective that is built on pretty much Spencer Strider's shoulders. So in a very opposite way, and I think that you may agree with me here, but in an opposite way of our offensive lineup where it is complementary, and so you're winning 20 games out of the first 32, even with arguably your two biggest hitters not doing what they're supposed to do because other guys are picking it up. You don't have that same ability on the defensive side of the ball in our bullpen and in our starting pitching.
Yeah, I actually do agree with you here. Guys like Marcell Ozuna are picking up the slack and finding ways to hit the baseball more than other things in his past life. So you look at guys like Ozuna who are hitting 306. Travis d'Arnaud, obviously a capable and reliable number two, not providing you the same offensive spark, but hitting 270. Again, you look at the lineup as a whole for the Braves this year, they're hitting currently 257, which is third best in the National League. Overall, you can't be too upset. They led the league in National League in home runs last year. Currently, they're in seventh with 32. They've hit 72 doubles, which is second in the National League. So again, it's a time where as Braves fans, you can sit there and say, we're still good. We're still good. Obviously, the Dodgers and Showtime and all that Hollywood nonsense out in LA is certainly taking the eye of the National League. Honestly, I think that's a good thing. If you're the Braves, you are not the spotlight now. The pressure is all on other teams in the National League. The Phillies have made a run twice in a row now. The Braves, right where you want to be early in the year, flying under the radar.
Yeah, 100%. Like also then it helps things like a Matt Olson not playing well. I mean, like if this was say last year or even the year before, coming off of the 21 World Series, he might be in this rock and a hard place where he's the whole country's looking at him, especially from a media perspective. But no, and with all the flack that Shohei Ohtani is bringing to the circus that already is the Los Angeles Dodgers, we can quietly be very, very good at baseball here as the Braves and work out some of these kinks. Maybe it's our boy Anthopoulos going out and finding another starting pitcher, or who knows who's going. There's always like the starting pitcher last year who came out of nowhere and had a 3 ERA, whose name I'm now completely blanking on, but maybe a guy like that steps up. Like I feel like the Braves are in a very positive spot where, to your point, you can play feel good baseball rather than holy shit, we're supposed to be the best team in baseball. Why aren't we being the best team in baseball and go full Chicken Little in May when it's May? You still have 4 more months of the regular season.
Yeah, and if you're taking a look at the Braves for the next week, they play 2 games at home against the Boston Red Sox before going up to New York, taking on the New York Mets, and then coming back to Truist Park to take on the Chicago Cubs in the next week. So again, winnable games, kind of get right games in a lot of sense. The Mets, awful. The Cubs, one step above, awful. The Red Sox, they've been hit and miss at least of those 3 next opponents probably are the best 3 or best of the 3. But again, all in all, a chance certainly to kind of get back and get right. And speaking of getting back and getting right, as we mentioned at the start of the show, this is our first show back of the season, and we want to hear from you, whether
Always.
at home, on the road,
At
in
Truist Park.
Truist Park, or outside of Truist Park. We want to hear from you. We want to still hear. It is still open. Who knows anything about Quickcrete?
Yeah,
We are still on the Quickcrete. What the heck is this?
huge.
We are still on it.
Yeah, if someone can actually show me like a real receipt, like or like a standing order that they have with Quickcrete, and like I'm talking like for more like 5 years, like a 5-year-old receipt that I went there, I picked up industrial concrete mix. Please shoot it my way because I don't believe worth a damn that it's a real business.
And again, circling off that, also as owners, as shareholders ourselves, we want to hear from you. Maybe we'll tell your story and have you on. Gardie and I went to games in Citizens Bank Park with the Braves last year. So we're live, we're boots on the ground here.
Oh yeah.
And we're now back bringing you Braves baseball. Stay tuned for next week's episode of Braves Bullpen.